Hey everyone, it's Rihanna and welcome to my third The 100 Day Film Challenge video where we're going to be going through days 60 to 80. This was a major struggle, but let's get on with what I've been watching recently. Also, I have to apologise for the awful lighting you're about to witness. I'm trying to fix that, I'm sorry guys. On day 61 I watched the new Netflix original film The Little Prince, which I was highly anticipating. I really enjoyed it, it just wasn't as good as I thought it would be. Day 62 was The Cube, which is a bottle film set in one location that uses it to its full potential, and I really enjoyed the intenseness of that film. Day 63 was Suicide Squad. You can go check out my review here. It explains all of my feelings. Day 64 was Selfless. Day 65 was Nerve, which I'm going to be talking about in my recommendations. Day 66 was the live action remake of Roald Dahl's classic BFG, which I had a lot of fun with. Day 67 was Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train, which I can't get over how incredible it is. I will be talking about it later. Day 68 was the 80s cult classic The Lost Boys. Day 69 was the Jim Carrey comedy Liar Liar, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I love Jim Carrey to death. On day 70 I checked out the short film Ellis starring Robert De Niro, and if you haven't seen this one yet, highly recommend it. It's around 14 minutes long, but so worth it. On day 71 I watched the Ricky Gervais comedy Ghost Town, which was just disappointing. I really enjoyed The Invention of Lying, so Ghost Town was just ugh. On day 72 I watched The Falling, which is an incredibly intriguing coming-of-age story with a female director, and Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones is in the film. It is incredibly creepy and just very ambiguous, which is kind of what I liked about it, but I would definitely recommend it to people who are a little bit more on the darker side of little kind of psychological thrillers being coming-of-age stories. That was very specific, but I knew where I wanted to go with that one. On day 73 I watched the mind-blowing Incredible Eye Origins, which I'll also be talking about in my recommendations. Oh my goodness, I love that film so much. On day 74 I watched the interesting, intriguing, but not to its full potential horror film Oculus. On day 75 I watched W.E., which is directed by Madonna. I've been meaning to watch that film for such a long time. I have such an interest in the British monarchy and especially Wallis Simpson, so this one was actually pretty great. On day 76 I watched the Nicholas Sparks adapted film The Lucky One, purely because of Zac Efron. That was it. On day 77 I had the joy of watching Pete's Dragon, which you can check my review out for here. On day 78 I watched the Kate Winslet starring film The Dressmaker, which I'll be talking about in my recommendations. Day 79 was the Adam Sandler comedy Billy Madison, and day 80 was Whiplash. The short film, of course. I've seen the full-length one too many times because it's flawless. So those were all the films I watched in day 60 to day 80 of my 100 day film challenge. Let's get on with my recommendations out of this list. Now my first recommendation is Nerve, which is going to be a love-hate film. Some people are going to think it's completely and utterly stupid. Some people are going to think it's kind of a cult classic-ish masterpiece, reminding me a little bit of The Bling Ring, which I didn't like, but I respect it. Nerve is starring Emma Roberts and Dave Franco, and basically there is this app where you can become a player or a watcher, and this kind of introverted girl who's kind of inside herself called V, played by Emma Roberts, decides to become a player when one of her best friends like accuses her of kind of just being too comfortable in her own skin. So V becomes a player, she gets really popular in this game of Nerve, people are watching her and people are daring her to do things for money, and then she comes across Dave Franco's character Ian and they team up, go into the city, and things start to turn incredibly dark. Nerve to me was a film with a really great concept which didn't exactly use it to its full potential, but I had one hell of a time watching this film. I thought it was incredibly intense, I thought the concept was really great, and I thought the acting was not terrible. Nerve to me is a fun time. There are bits of the film where you think it is completely ridiculous. The main one being all of their phones would have definitely died during that night. I mean, mine dies if I just go on my music app. It has an incredibly interesting concept to do with social media and does bring in elements of real life on what we've seen on the internet, what people have done on the internet, and that is really kind of scary. Two main leads in this film, Emma Roberts and Dave Franco, their characters V and Ian work really well together, and I think they lead this film really well. It's super intense in parts, and I just had a really fun time watching this film. I wouldn't recommend going to see it in the cinema, just because it's not one of those types of films. It's one of those films you watch with your friends on a Saturday night if you just want to have fun. The next one I want to recommend to you guys is one you've probably all seen, and that is Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train. I'm a huge Hitchcock fan. He is the master of suspense. I love him so much, and I've been meaning to watch Strangers on a Train for the longest time. The film is about an hour and a half long, but what Alfred Hitchcock does with it is incredible. The whole film bases itself around two characters. They both meet on a train, strangers on a train. There you have it. We have this slightly weirder character who proposes to the other guy, who's just an average guy, a tennis player, that they commit each other's murders for each other. And things just start to unfold from there. But what Alfred Hitchcock does with this hour and a half in Strangers on a Train is insanely amazing. This film is intense, it has great acting, it has great dialogue that you just want to lose yourself in. It is so incredibly rich and weirdly poetic. Strangers on a Train definitely has to be my new favourite Hitchcock film. I loved it so much, and I need the David Fincher remake right now. As you know, I'm not the biggest fan of remakes, but David Fincher could sell me on one if he did this film. I need it immediately. I just had a brainwave. The two strangers on a train, Edward Norton, Ben Affleck. I need it now. The next one I want to talk about is I, Origins, which is a film I've been meaning to watch for the longest time. It bases itself around two characters. One is just obsessed with eyes and the science of eyes, and has been studying them for most of his adult life. And he meets this girl who has this really incredible eye pattern and just falls undyingly in love with her at first sight. Literally. Within the couple, a tragedy strikes, and several years after that event, a global phenomenon is found in this girl's eye pattern. I really don't want to tell you much more about the story because you need to go into this film knowing as little as possible, but I just think it was so fascinating and fantastic. The actors are relatively unknown. We have Britt Marling and Astrid, I can't say her last name, I'll write it here. They made this film incredibly realistic, following these normal people with this incredible discovery. I think the first half of the film focused far too much on the romance and didn't focus enough on the thing I wanted to focus on, which of course was the fascination of eyes, the science behind eyes. But in the last half of the film, I was completely blown away with what they did with I, Origins. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. And the last film on my recommendations list is a film that I believe is soon to be out in the USA, which came out last year in the UK. This is very odd. Usually we get everything last, but that film is The Dressmaker, starring Kate Winslet, Hugo Weaving and Liam Hemsworth, and it tells the story of a woman who has fled her childhood town after being accused of a murder, and she comes back to kind of almost haunt the people of her town and prove that she is innocent in this crime. Main character Tilly Dunwich, who has flawless style. She is super stylish, super sleek, sassy and witty. This woman is incredibly strong but also shows her weaknesses. Kate Winslet is so diverse in this film, I think it was Oscar worthy. Tilly is back in her childhood home to prove her innocence and to reconnect with her mother, and this film handles that very well. The relationship between mother and daughter and the whole entire mystery of this case. And it also throws there the fashion and the style and just the flawlessness of Kate Winslet. Although this film doesn't have much plot or structure to it, it still tells an incredibly deep and rich story. And of course we have the aesthetics and the costumes of The Dressmaker. It is all perfectly costumed. I could not give it one fault in the look of this film. The only problem I did have with the film was definitely the pacing. It was very slow throughout, and this film isn't very long, but it felt longer than it was. If you're a Kate Winslet fan, definitely check this one out, and just check it out to support female filmmakers. Female director, I loved it. So there you have it guys, those were my 4 recommendations for the days of 60 to 80 in my 100-day film challenge. I'm actually going to have to be adding 2 extra days to the challenge because I have slacked. It's been awful. I've been so busy. But of course, I will be back with my 5th and final update video to end my 100-day film challenge. If you've seen any of these films I mentioned, let me know down below in the comments. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I'll be putting on lots more TV reviews and movie reviews for you guys very soon. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. That's all I have for you today. Bye!